Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here. This is going to be a bit of a short video this week. We're experiencing a fair amount of heat here and some power outages, and I didn't want to take the chance of trying to put together anything a little more complicated and end up not having to put up a video for Friday, because actually this Friday will be the 6-month mark for my New Year's resolution to get a video up every week, and hopefully we can finish out the year the same sort of way. So if you remember a few weeks back, I did a bit of an update on the river tank, and I wanted to make a bit of a baffle or deflector to have the water shoot more across the top, and that's what this is going to be. I had the first opening scene you saw there was just me routing out the groove so I can have a sliding panel there. And the purpose of that is this is clear, so it'll hide when it's in the water, but it's going to get algae growing on it, so I wanted to be able to completely take it apart and clean it out whenever it needs to be done. Now, I'm not going to glue this together completely yet because I'm not sure how well it's going to work, so I left the tailpipe undone. And as you can tell here, I forgot my tripod at home, so I conscripted someone to hold the camera for me, and it's going to be a little bit shaky. My apologies. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to fit it on temporarily and slide the sliding tray or the sliding door up and down and see what kind of effects I get. And I'm going to see if it is going to be sufficient for the purposes I want it for, and then if it's so, I'm going to glue this all together, and in the near future I will show you the actual finished product. So here I'm going to just get it flowing a little bit, and I think it looks pretty good. I'm not sure exactly how much back pressure I want to put on the pump, and I'm not sure how much rippling effect I want on the surface of the water yet, but I definitely want some. So this is kind of a happy medium. I think the water level will actually be a little bit higher when I run this for real, and but it's good enough, I think, for me to actually finally glue this together. So what I do is I got my cameraman to hold on to it for a second here, and I just show you a little bit of the surface of the water there. This is my old rack in the fish room, and you'll notice if you've been watching along, there's actually a lot of changes here. These are the Haporelli boiler fry I had last year. They're doing really quite well. All the moss on the top of this tank, and I really like that moss, I had to start pulling it all out, because if you remember from my video about my pains with duckweed, it was getting to the point where it was taking over completely and covering the surface of the water in like less than a week, and it was choking out a lot of the stuff on the plants that would be below. So I'm going to have to pull lots of it out. The top row here I just started working on. You can still see a fair amount of duckweed. All that stuff between the tanks has to come out. This has to come off. And it just has to be removed because the duckweed would hide in here, and it was just a mess. You can still see some here in the Riccia or Riccia, and like I said, all that has to come out still. And while I was doing this, I noticed that another female was holding eggs for the boiler eye, and I just thought I'd film it. These are very gorgeous fish, by the way. I highly recommend them to anybody who wants to keep Africans that aren't too aggressive. And even the mooreyes here are doing quite well. They're going to get their own tank soon, and then I'm going to start hopefully breeding those as well. So part of this video I wanted to show you guys a bit of a surprise. If you guys know who Dee from Down the Wormhole, whoever she is, and if you're not following her, you should be. Recently, a little while ago anyway, she had her mystery snails breed for her. And she went to the process of hatching them all out and caring for them and raising them up. And she was kind enough to send me some. She wanted to try shipping. Like, she hasn't done it before and wanted to do a test shipment, and this is it. And I can tell you, she was very nervous about the whole process because she was really worried that, well, I mean, she raised these little guys, and she was worried that they were going to get cooked somewhere in somebody's truck, and I would end up with a bunch of, unfortunately, non-living snails. But I can tell you, Dee, they all arrived nicely. When I first pulled them out here, they're all thoroughly hidden in their shells, and it took them a few hours before they started coming out. It was, like I said, they were They're not happy, but they definitely survived. They're all doing quite well now. You'll see shortly. First I'm going to put them in here and let them get used to being in water again, and where I can keep a close eye on them. And then I'm going to put them into the new rack system. They're actually one of the first things to do that are going to go into the new rack system, so that's kind of cool. I don't want them to have competition from all the other snails in the old system, and there's a lot of snails in there. So they're going to be probably the only snails that are going to go in, well, definitely in this one tank for sure. So you packed them up really nicely. They did really well. Everything was still damp. And you may not notice, but every time I open one of these up, I gave it a little sniff, because if anyone's kept snails and has had a dead one, they get a little rank. But everybody worked out really well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you a short clip of the new rack system, because I did a couple small changes. I wanted to put lights on it for today, but it was just way too busy this week. And like I said, with all the heat and the power problems, I just didn't have time to get the lights hooked up. But for next week, hopefully I'll have that done, and you guys can see this all lit up and with some plants and stuff. The biggest change is this. The air pump from the old rack system, I used to have it run off of air, and this is part of the manifold from it. I hooked that up because the air pumps I was using, they were just not pumping enough, and so I blocked up a lot of the holes, and I'm bleeding off a lot of the air as well, just to get enough even flow to these tanks, just so they run properly. And then later on I'll put on proper valves. So here you go, Dee. Here are your snails. They're doing quite well. Those are a group of 3 there. They're all doing just fine. They're just unfortunately not all around for me to film at this particular moment. And also to cycle this tank, I'm using these Endlers. These are from Angelo, Angelo's Fish Tanks, another great channel to check out. And like I said, I wanted to get them going in the tank, and they're perfect to do that with. And the other final thing here is I managed to pick up from a local person who is taking care and breeding red crystal shrimp, or crystal red shrimp, whichever way you say that. And so I picked up a bunch, and we're going to end the video off on this. And hopefully I'm going to be breeding these as well, and they are also going to go into the new rack system. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.